Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, your personal, professional, and career development podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Dave Peltz, and with me, as always, is my esteemed colleague, Dr. Joe Hamlett. How are you doing today, Dr. Joe?
I'm doing pretty good, Dr. Dave. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing? Just kidding. We could do that forever. For our listeners, we do have a guest speaker with us today. For our viewers, you already see that. We have along with us today Dr. Sherrie Campbell. How are you doing today, Dr. Sherrie?
I'm doing great. Excited to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Most excellent. Take a moment and just tell our audience a little bit about yourself for a couple minutes, and then we'll jump into today's topic.
So I'm a leading expert in the niche of toxic family. I'm the first expert to ever write about no contact with family being a viable option in the mental health field of family. No contact is supported in every other relationship. So I didn't make the concept up, but I did. I'm the first person to apply it to the family system, and I've written 7 books. 4 of those on toxic family, have another one coming, and I did a TED Talk. I have a private practice. I'm a mom to a beautiful 20-year-old girl, and I have a mini farm of animals at my house. So that's basically
Wow.
in a nutshell. And I love what I do. And I have a podcast called Therapy Sessions Cutting Toxic Family Ties to help people through this challenging journey.
Wow.
So you
I
don't do
think,
much at
yeah,
all.
yeah, you don't do much at all. We thought we were busy.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing. So let's get into our topic. The topic for today is reclaiming home, and I think there's some significance to that title with you today, if I remember correctly. So, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts on reclaiming home? Tell us about
So
that.
I just have a book that's going to drop in April of 2026. And that's the beginning of the title is Reclaiming Home. And reclaiming home is just reclaiming yourself from a very toxic family environment. And toxicity can happen in any group. It can be in corporate America, it can be in a friend group, it can be in a dyad, a love partnership. But breaking free from that, you really can't find yourself or reclaim who you are until you unhook from the drip of the poison. And so it's really about coming back to yourself and being able to live authentically and getting out of the cage that you were put in and finding that sense of who you are, understanding that you don't come from your parents, you come through them to live your most authentic life. And no one should have ownership over how you choose to live.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And as you were talking, it was reminding me of the challenges I experienced the 3 different times I transitioned out of the military, because to me, at the end of each one of those um, periods that I was in the military, it became very toxic. And how do I get out of this? Do I have to fulfill my contract? Well, yeah, unfortunately you do,
Mhm.
unless you're medically discharged or discharged under medical circumstances. So, but yeah, that's when you said, whether it's business or personal or whatever, that my mind just was like click, because at that point for me, it was a toxic relationship with the military. So yeah, that's really
Yeah,
cool.
any group, right? I mean, most groups have sort of a cultish ownership, right? And the toxic family system can, I think, certain religious beliefs can. We've seen Scientology, uh, and that whole documentary that was done, military, corporate, right? It's a go along to get along, sacrifice yourself. And I think reclaiming home is not engaging in self abandonment anymore. And I think the military is a little different because you are locked in. I
Right.
think, there's contracts signed. I think in families that contract is unspoken. And I think that whatever, and when we're talking about toxicity, we're not talking about, your normal daily disagreements or arguments. We're talking about abuse, coercion, manipulation, and a lack of freedom being put on to someone else. Those things are very different. So I wanted to define that just a little bit. But yeah, that makes sense to me that the military could really give you no other option but to self abandon until your time is up.
Yeah.
hmm Yeah,
Yep.
and we've had that conversation in different ways, throughout the podcast, different episodes. But that is part of it. You lose your identity to for the most part because have to adhere to these rules, regulations, guidelines, and again, you're doing something you may not even want to do. But like you say, you signed a contract, so that's part of that requirement. And so, yeah, you do put yourself on hold, even your family you put on hold too, because they're subject to the same thing that you're going through, and a lot of times it's not by choice for them. So you're right, being in the military is a different um, situation or different experience, especially when it comes to not being wanting or remaining who you are, just because
Yeah,
some
I would even
people.
say professional athletes probably have some of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that any group that you are either assigned to because they birthed you here or you signed up for, all of a sudden, I don't know that you realize that you're selling yourself to something bigger than you, that now all of a sudden you don't have ownership. It's so not right.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
just morally, it's not right.
yeah, and that's one of the one of the really tough challenges about, you know, transitioning out of the military or even from one career to another or one company to another is that loss of identity to yourself. Who are you? As you mentioned, your
Mhm.
authentic self, trying to find your authentic self. For me, it took me a good 2 or 3 years to find myself once I was out of the military the last time and trying to find my way into corporate America. It took me a long time. Maybe I'm a slow learner, but it can take a while to figure out who you are, what you enjoy, what you can do. Whereas in the military, no, you can't do a lot of things, and now you can do whatever you want, but you don't know what those things are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was tied into really trying to go along to get along for 45 years of my life into my toxic family.
Mm,
And now I'm 9 years, no contact. They cut me off. That was always the game, and I had to fix it, and I didn't this time.
mhm,
So my rebirth day is June 12th. And I celebrate that day as a magical feat of my warrior self that finally said, enough is enough. I'm never going to have a shot at happiness if I have even one drip of this toxic poison going into my system, because one phone call could take me down for 3 weeks. Right. So I call it my rebirth day because I could not even begin to look for my authentic self, let alone express it, as long as I was still having even a small drip of that poison. And I think the authentic self and that discovery is a different journey for everybody.
Right.
I do think it's kind of like flying a plane and building it at the same time. A guest on my show shared that metaphor, and it's just so poignant, right? So we're all so unique and different that how I found my authentic self, or what I define as my authentic self, might not be anything similar to what your authentic self
Mhm.
journey was or whatever. And I think the word authentic sort of points us in the direction that it's going to be unique. It's
mhm.
going to be
Right.
different for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
Joe and I often talk about, when we're asked, well, just give me a template. What do I need to do? And it's like, well, we can give you a few things to consider, but it's like going from one coast of America to the other. There's almost an infinite number of ways to get there. And, it's dependent upon the time of day, traffic, weather, construction, all kinds of things. How many trains are you going to, get stopped by? And it's like, and then how many reroutes do you have to make? But you have to keep that end goal in mind. That's the important thing, because like I said, we can give you some ideas. We can share our experiences, so maybe you don't have to take the long, painful, scenic route like we did. Um, but ultimately, you have to own that journey. You have to own finding yourself, your true, authentic self. And we've just talked about this. I think the last couple of episodes, that's really been emphasized is that critical self-reflection and being honest about it. Not saying, well, I'm the best there is, it's everyone else that has a problem. Well, maybe they don't have the problem, maybe you don't have the problem, but maybe you need to find something in yourself to do a little bit differently.
Yeah, and I think that some people misunderstand authenticity as a perpetual state of mental health and happiness. And that is not how I have found my authentic self. I have an incredibly vulnerable, fearful inner child voice behind nearly every face I wear. And I accept that as part of my authenticity. I'm also like the dumbest smart person you'll ever meet. Just saw from my on my I watch all of a sudden playing music out of nowhere. And I find that part of me hilarious and fun. I tried to get out of my car with the seatbelt on the other day. Sometimes we don't know how I got a PhD. I'm fully fine with that because that's just part of me. That's part of Sherrie. Sometimes I wake up wide-eyed and petrified in the morning just to start the day for no good reason. It kind of wears off on my drive to work, and I have a fantastic day. So it's just not a perpetual state of wholeness. Authenticity is all your parts.
Mhm.
So if you want to work on all your parts, you have to self-reflect. And also, you're going to have flaws. Like that's part of the authentic self. Like, I don't know why we would all try to not be flawed. I find the joy in your flaws, find the humor in them, find the growth in them, find the evolvement in them. So I think that it gets misinterpreted as I'm authentic and you're wearing this badge that you can hang some honor on. And I'm like, I don't know, my authentic self can spiral. Like she can kind of spiral, and then maybe I watch too much Law and Crime, and somehow in my spirals I end up in jail, and like that's out there. So it's like just be authentic. And I think you just have to accept your parts and just work to evolve. And I think to me that's as much of a warrior as I am in a fighter, and I'm driven. I'm also so vulnerable. You don't think I took a beta blocker to go do that TED Talk? Oh, sirs, yes, I did. I took a big old fat beta blocker because I was so scared that there was a step on the stage. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna fall off that thing. Or I'm gonna trip on the way back up. And I forgot my talk right in the middle of it.
Wow.
And I just kept talking. The clock's counting down. And it looks so perfect how they edited it. And I'm like, oh, thank God they didn't zoom in. I was sweaty as a salamander when I forgot. It just was blank. I'm like, oh God, oh my God, oh my God, it's gone. It's gone, it's gone, it's gone, it's gone. My mouth was moving. My brain was doing something different. Like, this is authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is authenticity, right?
Yeah. Well, I can relate to, the comments you made about the dumbest smart person. I've actually been, yeah, part of that myself. I've had people tell me that because I think sometimes my mind goes way over the top for the simplest of explanations, for the simplest of things, and you go down this rabbit hole of, um, why did you do that? And that's why I get a lot from my wife. She's like, you just all you had to do was answer this yes or no, not give me this.
You're like,
you know,
wait, on a seminar?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I thought you wanted a 3 hour
right.
pontification.
So I can definitely relate to that, and also relate to some of the things you're saying about that sometimes the expectation is you people hear a title Dr. Hamlett, and immediately you're supposed to be the expert of everything. You're supposed to be know all, and so sometimes, and we just had this conversation on our last podcast about. Um, just keep going because people don't know that you messed up or but again it should not hold you back from because typically nobody else will, but it's that self-doubt, still that self-fear, that that intimidation. I was just having a conversation with a gentleman the other day, and like I said, I failed speech class the first time, and now I do a lot of that in my day-to-day life, and I was telling him, yeah, sometimes I get up there and I got butterflies. I'm just can't wait to get off the mic. So you still have some of that, but you're right, that's still all part of who you are, and Dave knows this. um, for a lot of years I thought I was somebody else, and then my wife set me straight. Right after I earned my doctor's degree, she was like, "So what are you going to do now?" And I'm like, "I don't know." She's like, "Well, you got to do this." And I said, "Why do you think I should do that?" She said, "Well, you just were in school for 9 years and you're a nerd." And I said, I'm
Who?
not a nerd. What are you talking about? And so it really hit me like, what does she mean I'm a nerd? And so I was kind of upset for a while, but then I really started to think about my life and who I am and who I have been, and it hit me. I am a nerd. Why have I been trying to run away from this for so long? And I know I'm a nerd now, but it was just funny that again, other people saw these things in me and I couldn't see it in myself.
Well,
So
you're one cool looking nerd.
I think we should start a support group called Nerds Anonymous.
Okay. You are a cool looking nerd if you're a nerd. I want to be a nerd like you. Yeah, I mean,
That's what I tell Joe all the time.
yeah, I wake up genuine nerd and genuine like spaz also.
Yeah.
Like I'm just spaz and I know I am. And I've got this beautiful, elegant 20-year-old daughter who sometimes is just looking at me like, okay. Like on the stairs with her friends here, fell down the stairs in my pretty girl dress. Everything flew, broke my hand, and I was like in downward facing dog at the bottom of the stairs.
oh wow.
Okay. And I said, I looked at my hand. I don't know why. I'm like, I think I broke it. I went to work. I worked all day with a
Oh
broken
my
hand. And
goodness.
my daughter
Wow.
is like, are you going to make it down the stairs? Okay. I'm like, I don't know. Always rushing. I'm always doing. I'm so busy. And so, it's like, yeah, that's me. Boy, I looked cute before the fall, but yeah,
And you
my,
look cute during the fall, but post fall, not so much.
and here's what's sad is like Grace is actually for real my middle name. And I just don't wear it that well. So it's like, these are these parts of you. Like I've just had to learn to love this part of me because I was also an Olympic hopeful athlete in figure skating. I don't know how I can do a centimeter blade and do triples, but I can't get down the stairs in high heels with 2 bags of coffee and a water bottle. Like,
Wow.
right. So these parts of us, it's like the nerd or people see PhD and they make up a story about you. I always get
Yeah.
afraid to meet people in person because I've become accidentally very well known because that was never my goal. And I'm quite introverted. I'm afraid like when people meet me in person, I'm like, I'm just like, literally not who they think I am, right? Like they see professional me and social media all day and videos and TED Talks, but like I fall down the stairs and break my hand in front of my daughter's friends and I'm in downward facing dog, panties out at the bottom. Like this is embarrassing, right? So you have to be able to take all of those parts and just love them. They just are what they are. And it's a great story today. It gets told often, in fact, by my boyfriend or my daughter. Well, clearly, and now me. So just for the example of like, never judge a book by its cover because you
Right.
just don't know. A PhD, we worked hard for it. I don't know that we're smarter than anybody else. I think we're maybe a little more insane, but maybe not smarter.
Right.
I think it's funny that you're talking about falling down the stairs because I know where every leg on every chair, on every table, every door jam, and I know it. We've been here for 8 years. I could walk in my sleep, and I'd probably do better at missing them. I find every toe I swear has been broken a dozen times. Every shoulder, elbow, forearm. I think the door is bigger than it is. I know it's not that big, and yet I still try to walk through it with hands full of stuff. So I totally get the lack of
See,
spatial awareness.
are you a one tripper? I'm a one tripper. Like if I have stuff in my car, I'm not going down twice.
Yeah.
I load bags on this body just so I don't have to go down twice. So it's like,
And it's 10 feet away.
yes, exactly. And people are like, what is she doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm a one tripper. Like am I efficient? No, because the bag will break, stuff will fall. I have to go chase it. It's a whole thing. Do I learn? No. So I love this about being human. I feel like I've had to learn to let life be good to me. I didn't have parents or anyone who was good to me. They were sadistic toward me. So I didn't know life could be good to me. I didn't know I could open my heart and not try so hard and let life in. And I've learned over the last 10 years, 9 years of no contact. And I had cordial contact then, and before that, I had low contact. Like I slowly created distance. I moved states to try and make it be healthier. Maybe they'd love me if I wasn't around all the time, all of those things. Um, but in the last 9 years, I've learned to step back, not try so hard, because that's all I did when I was young was just try hard to be loved, try hard to perform like a good circus monkey, try hard to be this or that, try to fix everybody's problems. And it got me more and more abused. And so I've had to learn like life will be good to me. Even though I have no experience with love being good to me, if I learn to step back, life will be good to me. And life is good to me for the most part. I have my days and we all have our problems, but I think part of learning to be authentic is to not try to be authentic. Just be. Just be who you are. Stop
Yeah.
performing. Be who you are. Step back. Let life in. Life will be good to you.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think when we, and it goes back to even allowing people to define our success, what success means to them and not what it means to us. And that's what I've learned too. Like I said, trying to perform, trying to be somebody else, that was really hard and difficult. Now I am who I want to be. Whether it's what I drive, what I look like, I am, like I said, I fully accept it now, and I wish my younger self would have accepted that. I just imagine where I could have been, and that's
Mhm.
that's kind of the message I pass on to younger people or people that are struggling right now. Be who you're supposed to be. Define what your level of success is. Don't allow anybody else to do that. And once people do that, they recognize they have all these strengths, all these things and abilities, the potential, because they're now defining it for themselves, not allowing somebody else to do that for them.
One thing I loved seeing this year is I'm an athlete, so I love all sports, but watching Shador Sanders not get drafted. And
Mhm.
I don't agree with that. I think that there was something going on there, but
Right.
watching him handle not getting drafted is everything. So much composure, um, so much humility. Um, I think he got so much support. His jersey ended up being the number one selling jersey. It's these underdog stories. And this is a guy who
Mhm.
shouldn't have been an underdog, right?
Right.
Tiger Woods is another one that I really like. He really messed up his life. He took 3 years, he owned it. Usually you just lose your reputation when you do something like that. And I love all the Rocky movies, and I love even Rambo First Blood and Gladiator, and I love underdog movies. Rudy is incredible. And when we see these stories and we watch someone like Shador who has such a supportive family, and I did not have that, I think he was able to handle that situation with such composure because of that support. But when you don't have that support, and that's how I was raised, you have to learn to somehow find it inside of you, by yourself, and with yourself, to yourself, and for yourself. And if I can do it and you guys can do it, then anyone, we can all
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's one of the very challenging, most challenging things that there is when you grow up in an environment that doesn't have a good support structure, or it's a broken support structure, or it's not as good as it should be, and it can be. It's just not. You don't have the right role modeling, the right people to look up to. That's a challenging mindset to break and to get out of, and because you become dependent upon yourself in a way that I believe you shouldn't have to be dependent, because we're 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 creatures of we're social creatures, and we need support from others, and when that's gone and you rely solely upon yourself to find that because it isn't there, I think that is one of the most challenging things you can do. And I think there's some beautiful things that you can learn from that. but it's also taking that long, painful, scenic route too.
Yeah, and I think what a worthy journey. Like I used to think, why did I do that for 45 years? Obviously, I knew better. I moved states at 26 to get away from them. So why did it take me from 26 to 45? Well, some of it was my age. Some of it is that there was still some financial ownership going on of me and my life, which I'm grateful for. Not that I was abused with it, but that it got me to where I was. And the thing is sometimes things don't end until they do. Sometimes the journey doesn't cause us to stop suffering until it does. I think that any hero's journey is a long one.
Mhm.
And I think that we also have the highest capacity for evolvement. I would much rather have a high capacity for evolvement and a challenging life than to have an easy life and a low EQ.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I had,
Because
I would still choose challenge.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, because that's what me and Dave even talk about. It would have been great. I said it even earlier that if I could have told my younger self to do all these things, but the reality is I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't experienced that entire journey
Mhm.
to where I am today. So it's definitely, and that's why when we say we suggest our template or things that might help them, it's still up to them to apply that however that fits in their journey, not to try and mimic what we did, but to apply that where you need to, and just take that as suggestions or information that you can process however you want to. And so you're right, that journey is so powerful. There's nobody else like you. Again, if you just follow the template that a mentor gave you, would you be your authentic self, or would you be following in someone else's shadow? So,
That's right. None of us are replicatable.
right.
No one is ever going to be me before me, and no one's going to be me after me, right? And I think that I sort of think that the harder the journey, the more capacity you have to heal others,
Yeah.
right? Depending on what you do with your pain. And I think we all have choice in what we do with our pain. And I turned my predators to a purpose that seemed the most viable way for me to turn my own life around. And I think we all have important stories to share. And I think this is the whole gift of podcasting is we're giving people a voice to share their stories. And all it takes is one person's story to inspire your own.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we've got a couple minutes left. Sherrie, thank you so much for joining us today, taking time out of your busy schedule. Um, what are the final thoughts? What are the nuggets? What are the things that you want to leave the audience with that they can take away and contemplate and maybe manifest in some way?
What I would tell people is I've always done the brave thing by force. I've never done it bravely, not ever once. And the next brave thing that comes up, my past bravery ain't going to help. I'm going to be wide eyed and petrified when I do that one too. I hear people waiting for things like confidence or waiting for motivation, waiting for bravery. These aren't things that anyone naturally has. These are things that you do. Bravery is something you do, confidence is something that you do. So if you want to manifest anything, don't wait for those things to do something. Do those things first and make stuff happen.
Awesome.
Wow.
Wow. I think I'm gonna keep that clip for myself and I'm gonna
Yeah,
put it up on
absolutely.
my wall so I can look at it every day. Joe, what are your final thoughts?
I just want to thank Dr. Sherrie for coming on and sharing her insight on reclaiming home. I think a lot of us struggle with that. I mean, people have asked me throughout the years, how did you reclaim home, or how did you move on? And part of that is taking a hard look at yourself and your surroundings, things you're involved in, and making those decisions to step away from those things. And so, thanks for that shared um, experience, knowledge about reclaiming home and how important it is for you to continue to grow. and to develop. So again, thanks for being on the podcast.
You bet. And I think we should all reclaim our inner nerds too.
Yeah, yeah. Inner Nerds
Yeah.
Anonymous.
Crash test dummies. I think that's so. Yes, thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I'm certain that this will be helpful for the listeners. And so I appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So with that, if you want to reach out to Sherrie, her contact information will be in the description. We're really looking forward to her book coming out. I wish it was coming out sooner because I could probably benefit significantly from it. But I guess I'm going to have to slowly degrade until that time comes and build myself back up.
April 2026.
April
So
2026.
got to be done by the 15th. And then they take the time to print and publish, and then it'll come out April 2026.
Nice.
Okay.
We're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank our viewers and listeners for joining us on another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, your personal, professional, and career development podcast. Yeah, I think that's a good way to end the show, wrap up the podcast. So with that, we want you to continue being your not so ordinary you.